Saturday, the 15th of May, the year of our Lord 2021, now with almost 53 million downloads on a podcast, and we're live everywhere across the nation on the John Frederick Radio Network, streaming on Real America's Voice, up on the satellite, Dish Channel 219, on cable, Comcast Channel 113, on Roku, Pluto, and most particularly, G News and GTV. We're live in Mandarin and now in Japanese. We're to the diaspora, the Chinese people throughout the world, and later in the day, blown through the firewall to Lao Beijing, those yearning to be free in China, our colleagues that are fighting for their freedom every day against the transnational criminal organization that is the Chinese Communist Party. I want to welcome you to a special, the American Generals Talk, and a letter that shocked the world this week for some of the most revered combat veterans of our nation's history, have led our young men and women on battlefields throughout the world. These Americans are of unquestionable patriotism. They warned the nation in September with a letter that said, if this is the most important election in the history of this republic, and this is what will happen. And about the 100th day of the Biden administration, they came out and said it down in print to say, hey, this is spinning out of control on every different aspect, and it is incumbent upon the American people at the grassroots level. You can't wait to just people come in and say, hey, we're going to take you here and going to do this, going to do that. It is upon you, and that's why this audience is so powerful, from PTA boards to school boards to precinct committeemen taking over the Republican Party in Georgia and in South Carolina, standing up and making sure the patriots in Arizona sit there with 2.1 million ballots, grinding away in very unromantic circumstances to find out what exactly happened on November 3rd. So this revolution is ongoing. Hey, it's countering a Marxist revolution that's going on here in the United States. It is General Boykin, General Harrell, and General Bolduc join us today. I want to go around the horn. Thank you for staying for this second hour, for at least the first segment. General Boykin, of that entire letter, the audience has it. We're going to put it up on the site again, blow it out again. In the letter, what would you have people focus on? What do you think is the most important part of the letter as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, the thing that I am most passionate about is our military. We talk about that a little bit in the thing. And Steve, you know, you can give our military the best technology, the best weapons and airplanes and tanks and whatever. And that's good. It's going to give them an advantage on the battlefield, but there's nothing on that battlefield that is more important than the cohesion and the morale of those men and women that are out there fighting. Those men and women have to be able to depend on each other. And what's happening in our military with these social experiments and this weaponization of our military now, and making them part of this big con by having them stand out there with no weapons out on the streets of Washington, I believe is eroding the cohesion and the morale. And there is nothing that is doing that more than teaching this critical race theory nonsense.
Amen.
All it's doing is dividing the men and women in our military. So my highest passion in this letter is for our military and what's happening.
One thing before we move on, General Boykin, they're making, and the guys at Revolver have done amazing analysis about these new commissars that are in the Pentagon, and now they're going to have these new commissars that are going to be part of Congress talking about for the whole sexual harassment part of it. These political commissars that are going through people's social media and make sure they broom people who they consider to be seditionists, to be traitors, to be people that are extremists and
Trump supporters.
Trump support domestic terrorists. What say you to that, sir?
Yeah, listen, it sounds an awful lot like Soviet Russia. It sounds a lot like the Soviet Union with commissars and people. Look, you know, Steve, because you're a veteran, you know that all of these things are chain of command issues. They're issues that the chain of command has to deal with. And what we're ultimately doing is we're usurping the authority of the chain of command, and that is a fundamental problem in our military, because if you don't let the commanders have the authority to deal with not only the situations in their units, but the people in their units, you are undermining their authority, their credibility, and that's going to be reflected on the battlefield in a very negative way.
General Harrell, let me bring you in here. Of the letter that you signed, sir, what do you believe the American people, what's the most important part of the letter you would like the American people to focus on?
Well, I think the most important part of it is to focus on the fact that we're not advocating anything new. We're talking about following the law, following the election law, following the rule of law. That is very, very important. I couldn't agree more with what General Boykin said. He's absolutely correct. The only thing we should be looking for in the military is to build cohesion and to choose people who meet the standards. It's very clear. These standards are not evolved overnight. They evolved overnight. They've been around for a long time. And if you meet the standards, do your job successfully, you're rewarded. People move up. And that cohesion that builds is irreplaceable. I agree with Jerry on that. But if you think we're wingnuts, tell me where these wingnuts have the law and the Constitution incorrectly.
General Bolduc, same question to you. Of this letter that you signed, what do you think the American people ought to focus on most, and what do you believe is the most important part of it?
Yes, sir. I have in complete agreement with General Boykin on the military point and the rule of law point that General Harrell made. So I am going to go to the security aspect of this, our national security, both internally and externally. I think Americans need to really understand that they have a serious issue with security. And, oh, no. Are we back? All right, we're back.
Yes, sir.
Are we back, sir?
We got you, General Bolduc. Yes, sir.
All right, we're back. All right, so internally, borders, really, really bad situation we have, and it's affecting us all across the nation with human trafficking, increase in drugs, weapons, terrorists coming into our country. This is terrible. It's terrible for New Hampshire. It's terrible for every state. Secondly, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran. Look what the policies and the changes have done to our security outside the United States. So please understand that the only thing we're concerned about is your safety and security, your economic and fiscal responsibility of our nation. And all three of those are in jeopardy because of security.
General Bolduc,
I hope you got all of that.
Yeah, we got to find. Hang on for a second. I got to ask you guys, you gentlemen, the following. In the letter, what made particularly some people blow up is besides your thing about the Marxist revolution, it's got to be stopped. You specifically singled out Joe Biden, the commander-in-chief, as not being up to the job mentally or physically. General Boykin, let's start with you. One, was that necessary? Why was it necessary, and what do you mean?
For 4 years of the Trump administration and a year of the campaign, he was bombarded with questions about his mental acuity, his fitness to be the commander-in-chief. And we're not coming to any conclusions in this letter if you'll read it carefully. But what we are saying is that this needs to be questioned and that it needs to be taken seriously. And look, let's be clear, Steve. When you can't even remember your own Secretary of Defense's name, and when you can't remember the Kevin McCarthy's name, the minority leader in the House of Representatives, and things like that are good indicators that there's something off. And when the Democrats are starting to ask questions about the nuclear launch procedures and all, it gives our adversaries certainly a big question in their mind as to the fitness of our president. And we are doing exactly the same thing, saying it has to be considered. They did it for Trump. Now, you got to be at least objective on this issue.
Okay, last question for the three of you, and I'll start with you, General Boykin. What would you? This is the most activist audience in all media. What would you ask this audience to do starting today? What's your recommendation to, if you want to counter what's in the letter? What are you asking this audience to do? General Boykin, we'll start with you.
Okay. Yep, let's start at the bottom, and you need to get on the school board, or you at least need to be attending school board meetings. You need to be attending city council meetings. You need to make your voice heard. Then you need to get registered. You need to make sure you vote, and you better vote judiciously. You better know what you're voting for. You better know what these people stand for. And then bombard your members of Congress, both the House and the Senate. Bombard them with your objections to what you see unfolding, and then stand ready to be part of anything that comes along that gives you an opportunity to let your voice be heard. And the most important thing, though, is getting to the polls and voting the right way.
Okay, General Harrell, same question. What do you want this audience to do? What's your call to action?
Well, the first thing they need to do, I think, is to fall down on their knees and try to seek some guidance. And probably everybody won't be able to do that, but they need to pay attention and get involved. 2 out of the 3 of us are running for some kind of a political office. I applaud Don for what he's doing. I don't know that Jerry's doing anything. I just got elected to be the party chairman in Washington County, which is in East Tennessee. And get involved. I agree with 100% with what Jerry said, because if you don't know what's going on and you're not involved, you really can't complain about it. And I think the more veterans we have involved because of the service they've done to their country already, the better off we're going to be. I am not saying that we should only have veterans in these positions, but we need more of them. And then pound the whiz out of your people that are elected and hold them accountable for what they're doing. You know, when they violate the Constitution, let somebody hear about it. Call the news, you know, and let's try to get them fired up too and get them busier and working the way they should be.
General Bolduc, we got about a minute left. Can you tell us your call to action and also give us your website for your campaign, sir?
Yes, sir. So get involved. Hold your leaders, your elected officials, accountable and responsible for what they do. Question them. That is your right. They work for you. You do not work for them. And they've twisted that. And we got to bring it back. And thirdly, please do what you can to support my campaign. www.donbolduc.com. I am the true conservative here in New Hampshire, and I will do the right thing in the United States Senate for our economic prosperity, fiscal responsibility, and the safety and security of Americans.
Okay,
God bless you all.
We're going to put this all up. I got to say something. For all the courage and all the bravery you've shown throughout your career in uniform on battlefields throughout the world, leading our young men and women, the courage you have shown to stand up and be counted now, I think will be remembered as probably your greatest and bravest moment. Remember,
finest hour.
Finest hour. What Winston Churchill said, courage is the most important of all the virtues because it's upon courage that all the other virtues rest. General Harrell, Boykin, and Bolduc, thank you very much for joining us today on the special, the American Generals Talk. Thank you, guys.
God bless you.
We'll be back in a minute with Dr. Peter Navarro with his analysis, assessment, Brian Kennedy, and of course, Sam Faddis from the CIA. All next. Okay, the world's on fire. You got war in Israel. You got a total collapse of the U.S. dollar. You got $6 trillion of spending that we can't handle while the consumer price index explodes, unemployment explodes, retail sales are flat. The Biden administration has absolutely zero idea what they're doing financially or in capital markets. What are you to do about it? Well, the first thing is to take action about your own personal finances. You need to consider today investment alternatives, and the one you need to consider first is precious metals. If it's gold and silver you're talking about, Birch Gold's the place to go. It's got an A-plus rating by the Better Business Bureau. Go to Birch Gold today. How do you do it? Type in the following. You got to text the following, Bannon, B-A-N-N, at the following number, 484848. Text Bannon, B-A-N-N-O-N, at the following number, 484848. What are you going to get? A 20-page brochure that walks you through everything you need to know about gold and silver. Then you can talk to a Birch specialist. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family. Most importantly, you owe it to your retirement. Go to Birch Gold today. How do you do it? Text Bannon, Bannon, the following number, 484848. Don't do it today. Do it right now.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
There's huge breaking news over at Gateway Pundit right now about, guess who? Dr. Fauci, the PLA, the Wuhan lab, and NIH, all of it. So go over to Gateway Pundit right now. We'll get to more of this on Monday. But our next guest in here, Dr. Peter Navarro, is obviously an expert in that. Although today we got a different topic to talk about. Remember, whether you think there's a bioweapon from Wuhan or if you think it's a total and complete hoax, the one thing we have learned, your immune system is central to your health and to the nation's health. You've got to take personal responsibility to boost it. We have warroomdefense.com right now. Go there today. You get vitamin D3 and zinc for free. You got to pay shipping and handling. More importantly, you get access to information about your immune system and what you need to do personally to take care of it. Okay. This whole show is about human agency. That agency would be yours. The work on oneself begins with oneself. Start with warroomdefense.com today. Start to take control of your health. Boost your immune system. Go there today. Before I turn to Peter Navarro, I'll start with Frank Gaffney and then Captain Bannon. Of the American generals' talk, what do you think is the most important part of the letter, and what do you think is the most important part of their message?
Steve, first of all, thanks for giving them that time. This was absolutely indispensable. First, I think that the point that they made repeatedly, that we're dealing with a Marxist revolution in our country and that it has support from within our government is absolutely vital. Let me just read quickly what they said about China, though. China is the greatest external threat to America, establishing cooperative relations with the Chinese Communist Party emboldens them to continue progress towards world domination militarily, economically, politically, and technologically. We must impose more sanctions and restrictions to their world domination goal and protect America's interests. That is a vital message. Nobody says it better than this war room, but it can't be said often enough, and especially with the authority of these people who are bringing their professional judgment to bear on the national security of the United States.
A threat assessment. And like I said, it'd be so easy for them just to go over the Army, Navy, play golf, sit it out, and just have a nice, easy life and not get back into the fray, and quite frankly, in a treacherous environment. Captain Bannon, your thoughts?
Okay, so I think the most important part is where they said using the U.S. military as political pawns, that we need to stop using the military as political pawns. We need to take care of our military. We need to focus on morale and cohesion here at home so that when we go and fight, that we're, able to trust the person to our left and our right. And where they said eliminate the corrosive infusion of political correctness, that's undermining morale, and you're not going to be able to trust that person to your left and your right if this continues.
And the point that you made, which is so important, is this political commissar business.
Big time.
That's what they're doing to politicize and weaponize.
We're going to get more into this about this whole sexual harassment, which obviously, look, if those are issues that got to be dealt with in the chain of command, but we fought this a couple of years ago, and this is now in the Senate. That's even what Darren Beatty and these guys, a revolver, said about the thought police. Deeply, I think it's Bishop Garrison in the Pentagon itself. But then you look at these commissars, which Capitol Hill's talking about. It's all got to be stopped in its tracks. Amen. Dr. Peter Navarro, you went to one of the most elite institutions in this country at Harvard. We talked here earlier. They blamed a lot of this on the education, all that. You were in the White House. You've been in the Situation Room. You've seen what's going on. Are the American generals and the American generals' talk in their letter, are they a group of wingnuts? Is this all conspiracy theory? Or where do you stand on this, being that you've been at the highest levels as an assistant to the president for 4 years and came out of one of the most elite universities in the world, sir?
Steve, what we love to do on this show is granularity, information, historical context. On this Wignot issue, if I can just be their political consultant for a minute, here's what I think we need to do. I'm going to put a chart on, just walk through for the radio audience in 60 seconds here. What we've got here, Steve, is not Marxism, crazy Marxism. It's Marxism with American characteristics. And historically, we've had two threats, Steve, two previous threats where the legitimate Marxists tried to take over this country. One was in the 1930s, during the Great Depression. We came very close to losing this country then. The other was during the Vietnam War in the 60s, when Marxists and socialists tried to use that revolution basically to move to a Marxist world. What we have now, Steve, Stacey Abrams is the Saul Alinsky of our time, the ultimate organizer. And here's the punchline. This is what I want everybody to remember. The Biden-Abrams gambit is this: overthrow our election system using fraud and election irregularities, and then shove socialist control down our throats under the banner of democracy. In order to avoid the wingnut critique, you have to point out, Steve, that, hey, we don't have democracy right now. What we have is a stolen election that was stolen using a very elaborate and sophisticated set of gambits in our battleground states, and we knew what they were going to do if they were able to steal it. They did. That's what we've got. So this is Marxism and socialism with American characteristics. Stacey Abrams, the Saul Alinsky of our time, and what they're doing is they're shoving this socialism down our throats under the banner of a democracy which is absent given free and fair elections. That's my take.
You do that Harvard education well, sir. That is absolutely brilliant take. That is absolutely brilliant. So before we bring in our other guests, and by the way, we're going to delay the war plan, war footing, because it's so deep, and our guest, Brian Kennedy and Faddis, have so much to say. I don't want to just cram it in here for a few minutes. I want to address the generals, but I want to stay with Navarro for a second. Peter, what then is to be done? And is this why you keep saying, as I reinforce what you're saying, is November 3rd, getting to the bottom of it in Arizona to start is so important when you look at your 100-page analysis? And by the way, I heard people last night, I was watching a show, and they were quoting someone was quoting that you can't really understand what's going on in the country until you read Peter Navarro's 100-page report on the election. Some guy I'd never heard of before. I go, wow. And he was sitting there going, hey, this has to be addressed. You can't understand it until you get to Navarro's report. What if you've identified Stacey Abrams as Saul Alinsky at time, and I keep saying, hey, I don't agree with her politics, but she's a winner. I mean, she knows how to. She got the consent decree, kept it secret, stole the election down in Georgia on the president on November 3rd, and then came back with the glare of the world and stole 2 more Senate seats. So a hat tip to Stacey Abrams. But Peter Navarro, with the generals, what they're saying, what do you think needs to be done then, sir?
First of all, Georgia is no longer the peach state. It's a cesspool state, because in my report, of the 6 battlegrounds, Georgia was by far and away the worst. It had 50 times the amount of potentially illegal votes Biden victory margin alleged, which was less than 12,000 votes.
Hold on, hang on. Put a pin in that right there. Hold on. Put a pin in that right there. That's why everybody has to understand what is happening in Arizona today with these patriots. It's going to Georgia. Arizona is probably the least offensive.
You're stealing my thunder here, Steve.
Okay, keep going.
This is exactly where I'm going, because let me praise you, Bannon. The 2 things we do have to get to the bottom of are what happened in the 2020 election.
Amen.
And where did the virus come from in China, because those things are ineluctably intertwined. What that virus did coming out of the lab in Wuhan, and for me it's 100%, and Fauci's the father of it, what that did basically was help the Democrats take down the House of Trump. And so until we get to the bottom of both of those things, and this whole thing, I can't stress this more, it's like the Democrats are affecting change, right, under the banner of democracy, but it's a faux democracy, Steve, when you don't have free and fair elections. So yes, Steve, but really, I mean, look, people don't need to understand, it's like that thing wouldn't be happening in Arizona if not for Bannon's war room. You were the one who kept the heat on those people. You were pushing people out to lobby the legislatures, and you got that done. What we need to keep doing here, Steve, one fall, all fall. Georgia's got to be next, but every single one of those 6 battleground states was stolen, and you only need about 3 of them for Donald Trump to be sitting in the White House right now.
Jump in.
Well, I just want to point out that we knew Georgia was going to be next. When I was on the show on the 27th and Gabriel Sterling sent out that tweet, the fear is in their heads. They know it's coming there next, and so that's where it's going to be.
Let me talk about the fear. We're going to play. We don't have time. We're going to play it on Monday. CBS News last night with Norah O'Donnell. Okay, CBS News last night with the new anchor, Norah O'Donnell, did a 4-minute segment on Arizona. The first time broadcast news. Hang on. 4-minute segment. And it's just like the segment that
primetime television.
Primetime television.
Forever.
Hold it. 4-minute segment on that, just like Anderson Cooper night before in CNN on his show with Stacey Abrams. They brought it to Siege Guns right away. In 4 minutes, they did not address, and this is the tell, they did not address one thing that's come up from the ballots, from the machines, from the process, from the databases, all these things that need to be answered, and we're all going to go to court to get them answered because there's going to be a firestorm next week, right? They talk about bamboo, UV. They are so afraid to answer the questions. They're so afraid. That's why we're winning. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Yep.
Quickly here, Steve. They use the I word, right? That's the latest thing. Abrams is going to call what's going on in Arizona an insurrection. Look, this is a counter-insurrection. The real insurrection happened not on November 3rd. Trump won the election on November 3rd by a landslide. The real insurrection happened in the dark hours right after that when they stole the election under the cover of all manner of election irregularities. So this, when they use that word, when Stacey comes through that insurrection word, just reminder, it's a counter-insurrection. The real insurrection happened with the election that the Democrat Party and their operatives stole not from Donald Trump, but from the 74 million plus Americans, deplorables, working class Americans who voted for that man.
Okay, Navarro, hang right there. We're going to bring in Faddis, Brian Kennedy. We've got a special guest. Stay tuned. It's going to get. You think it's been crazy today? So far, you haven't seen crazy yet.
You ain't seen nothing.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Be back in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
The American. Whoa.
Cold start.
We can't talk about it. Yeah, not a cold open, a cold start. We can't blame that one on Denver either. Okay, we'll take the hit in here. But by the way, fantastic job. This show's been so complicated today. Young master producer Cameron doing a great job.
Rock star.
But to juggle, some of the generals had a less of a control of the technology than Stephen K. Bannon, which is none, zero. Okay. The American Generals Talk. This has been a historic program. I just want to give a hat tip to Dr. Peter Navarro. That last segment we're going to cut out. The best summary of what happened and where we are as a nation in 3 minutes coming from Dr. Peter Navarro. Okay, we've got two other of our most important thinkers. It'd be Brian Kennedy and Sam Faddis. Brian, the American Generals Talk. They warned us in September with a letter that said this is going to happen. 100 days out, they gave us a letter. This is where the country is, and there is a Marxist revolution going on. And the power of it, I think, was exacerbated or raised up because the French generals at the same time put out and told Macron, the Obama of France, the country's spinning out of control. The media is not covering it, but we will not let this happen to France. We will not let this devolve into a civil war. What say you, Brian Kennedy?
Well, great to be with you, Steve. I think the generals were saying that the country has been wounded both by decades of Marxist ideology that has permeated the American university, but also by what happened last year in our politics that you have documented so well here on the War Room. The country has been injured. There has to be triage right now. And they were outlining just how sick the patient was and what needs to be done if you're going to fix it. And fixing it starts with rebuilding our civic institutions and our political institutions, starting with free and fair elections. If we can't get the free and fair elections, nothing else matters. And I think that letter by the general was about as patriotic, civic-minded, and noble an endeavor as you're going to see in our politics today.
Free and fair elections. A lot of people are talking about election integrity. We got to pass laws. We got to do everything. But can you get to free and fair elections until you get to the bottom of November 3rd? Isn't on the deck plates of that convention center in Arizona where free and fair elections are going to come from, to get to the bottom of actually what happened, how it happened, and who's responsible for allowing it to happen, sir?
Yes, no, I think that's exactly right. And I think in Arizona today, people on the other side or on the left are absolutely terrified of what they're going to find. And I think what they're going to find is Donald Trump won the state of Arizona. And when that is discovered, it's going to be, all hell's going to break loose. People are going to wonder, how did this happen? And that'll be a very useful thing for our politics to get to the bottom of this. And they're doing it in Arizona. And I was there in the original hearings with Rudy Giuliani and Mark Fincham, and we were documenting that for the War Room then. And I think in the next few weeks, we're going to have an even more rich display of everything that transpired.
Arizona, that convention center is Concord Bridge, okay? The shot heard around the world is coming from there. Hey, and the Minutemen. First off, Anderson Cooper's producers are very smart. Nora O'Donnell at CBS on the broadcast news, they're very smart, okay? They know exactly what's going on. They say, it's the UV lights, it's all wingnut conspiracies, they're looking for bamboo. They don't address anything that's come forward, that public hearing that the Senate of the state of Arizona has said for 1 p.m. next Tuesday, the 18th, the year of our Lord 2021, is going to happen in Maricopa County, and the supervisors are going to have to address. And Dominion, and remember, we're not machine guys at all, but when Dominion comes out and says our defense is it's our intellectual property, you can't look at, not good enough. You know that the patriots out there, and this is working class men and women that have put their shoulders to the wheel and grinding out, only about 20% done with the hand audit, and we don't even have the results of the census. Remember, as Peter Navarro tells us, it's the canvas, not the count. It's the canvas, not the count. The canvas is going to blow up. And as Peter Navarro tells us, the cesspools in Georgia, right, and in Pennsylvania, and in Michigan, Arizona is going to look fairly high and tight when we get to these other states. And in Arizona, you're going to see at least 250,000 votes that were stolen or illegal or illegitimate. And when they say that Donald J. Trump has won, and people should understand, we're not doing this about laws for 2022. We're going to get to the bottom of November 3rd, and then you're going to have a constitutional crisis. Not that we caused, that you caused. Because it's not all votes that count. It's all legitimate, legal, certifiable, chain of custody votes from American citizens, and nobody is going to back off this until we get to the bottom of it. Sam Faddis, your assessment, they say it's a Marxist revolution going to the country. Is that overblown hyperbole? You've done this for a living your entire professional life. Where are we? Are the generals correct? Or have they spun out of control and not the country?
Yeah, the generals are correct. It's not hyperbole. It may sound crazy to the average American that we could be talking about it, but that's where we are. It's been decades in the making, and we are behind the curve, but time to catch up and time to fight back.
I want to say something, too. If talking about fighting back, if it wasn't for people like Brian Kennedy and Dr. Navarro, and here's the thing, the generals, Navarro, Kennedy, professionally, this didn't take them, this didn't help. All of those people could have looked the other way. Like so many. Remember, one of the issues is going to come out, and it's coming out about the coverage of this right now. The people on our side of the football, remember, they don't all want to see what the results are in Arizona, right? Certain broadcast networks, certain cable networks, certain elected officials, certain party apparatchiks, people who look the other way.
Just about all of them, actually.
This is why it's Concord Bridge, right? At Lexington Common and at Concord Bridge, it was a handful. Remember, at the top of our game in the Revolution, we had a third Patriots, a third Tories, and a third in the middle saying, I'm going to see how this thing plays out.
And only 3% were actually doing the fighting.
And I knew Frank was going to give me trouble here. Only 3% actually took up arms and actually fought, right? My point, that deck plates is patriots. That's you, the deplorables. It's not some highfalutin group of people. It's not people being paid. It's volunteers. Heck, they've already run out of money. And look what you found so far. That's Kennedy and Navarro provided the intellectual structure to kind of say, hey, here's what we got to kind of look at. Here's how it's got to be framed. Here's what you need to do. But the muscle came from what Boykin and Harrell and Bolduc. You know why they can say you got to step up and do it at the local level? It's your sons and daughters they've led in combat, and many of you, they've seen throughout the world. They've seen throughout the world what the Americans. By the way, that's from 1914 to 1989. We took care of the Nazis. We took care of the fascists. We took care of the imperial junta in Japan, the military junta. We took care of the Soviets. Who? It's on the shoulders of the deplorables, as it always is, just like at Concord Bridge. And on the deck plates in Arizona, that's Concord Bridge today. When we finally get to the final count, and you see that it's 250,000 ballots that are illegal, and not even with the machines in the databases, just good old-fashioned, they stole it the old-fashioned way, that is a shot heard around the world. You don't think the Financial Times of London is going to have to deal with that? You don't think the Economist is going to have to deal with that? You don't think the Party of Davos is going to have to do with that? Because from Arizona, we're going to Georgia, we're going to Michigan, we're going to Pennsylvania, we're going to Wisconsin, we're going to New Hampshire and Nevada and Montana, all of it. You can't have democracy until you have democracy. This is just like this commission. We want this commission. Bring the commission on every time we get a place to adjudicate something. Now that the Senate in Arizona said to do it, we can adjudicate it in an official proceeding, right? They can't deplatform you because it's an official proceeding. They're going to have to eat it, and they know it. Why do you think CBS News took it last night? Watch CBS News. You want to see the cowardice and how terrified they are? They're looking for bamboo. They're looking for ultraviolet. This is all QAnon. Answer the question. We've already come up with, you see how you stole it? You got 17% less real ballots there already. That's a hand count. That comes from the supervisors. What do the supervisors let us say back? This is dangerous. The supervisors to the Senate, you bet it is. It's damn dangerous to this Marxist revolution, because you know what we're going to do? We're going to go back and we're going to count throughout this nation, every legal, certifiable, chain of custody vote, and then we're going to see who won on November 3rd. Okay? And that's what? The nation's going to have to deal with that. Okay? So this is not about laws for 2022. This is not, no, Kevin McCarthy come out of the White House. Oh, I don't think everybody's, no, Kevin McCarthy, you are very dead wrong. And that is why Liz Cheney's been sent to early retirement, and Elise Stefanik, and I don't care about Elise Stefanik's vote on taxes. It doesn't matter. She's got our back on November 3rd, and that's the only thing that matters. That and Wuhan. You get to the bottom of it, it all crumbles. All of their lies, all of their misrepresentations, all of their control, it collapses. Fauci, the entire thing in Wuhan, and November 3rd on the deck plates in Arizona. And who's delivering that? And they had to get that. By the way, CBS at the end of it cut to that. It was pure Tea Party, Trump movement, patriots, right? And they're trying to make you, you're QAnon wingnuts, you're dangerous. The 1-6 Commission, you're seditionists, you're traitorous, right? You're traitors, you're dangerous. What you are is people that are fighting for democracy. Democracy.
In the country.
In the country, and we're not going to relent. Real quickly, I want to finish, by the way, Faddis and Brian Kennedy, two patriots. We're going to have those back. We're going to do the war plan. We got to get in war footing. We're in a jam, as the letter said. Is Dr. Navarro still with us? Peter Navarro, you have done more in your reports on Wuhan and your reports on what happened on the vote than any professional associated with the Trump administration. And I think the nation owes you a great thing. You could have done also. You could be out working for a hedge fund. You could do all this. You're not making money doing this. You're doing it because you're a patriot. You got about 2 minutes. Give us your thoughts, analysis before we bounce, and we're going to bring in a very special, yet even a bigger bomb thrower we've had on today on the show next. Peter, your analysis, your thoughts, your commentary.
I just want to go back to this chart, Steve. What we've got here is a Biden-Abrams gambit. They're trying to they overthrew our election system, and now they're trying to shove their socialist control down our throats under the banner of democracy. This is not democracy, Steve, when you don't have free and fair elections. That's why what your show is doing is so important in keeping the heat on Arizona and Georgia and Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. And don't forget Nevada, where they actually handed out Visa gift cards on Indian reservations to bribe voters, Indian voters, to vote for Biden. Crazy stuff. So let's get to the bottom of this. The two things that we have to resolve here that in some sense merge into one. Where did the virus come from? We know it came from that lab. We know. Was it accidental? Was it intentional? What's going on there? We need to get to the bottom of that. And by the way, Mr. Biden, rather than forming a commission to look at Jan 6, let's look at what happened at that Wuhan virology lab right here, the house that Tony Fauci built. And then let's get to the bottom of these election irregularities as Arizona is doing. Steve, you're absolutely right. Arizona is going to look clean compared to the cesspool of Georgia, what happened in Detroit, Michigan, what happened in Madison, Wisconsin. And don't forget, Zuckerberg paid for a lot of it, and now he's putting the hammer down on all conservatives.
Real quickly, how do people get your election report? Where do they go?
PeterNavarro.com. You can get the election report there. You can get the immigration report. You can get all sorts of good stuff there. Real P. Navarro on Twitter, but hedge your bets on Twitter. Get on Parler and others.
Faddis, Kennedy,
Admiral,
and
great
Navarro,
show
thank
today.
you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. And a special bomb thrower guest next. Biggest question is, how did she get into the country? Next in the War Room.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
If you told me at the end of the show we'd actually have the most intense personality, given that we've had the generals, we've had Gaffney, we've had Navarro, they're all lightweights compared to our next guest. We're honored to have Katie Hopkins in from the United Kingdom. First off, how'd you get in the country?
Yes, because of our COVID variant, which of course is deadlier than Ebola, and you're all going to die immediately if you don't clear the room. I'm banned from leaving the United Kingdom, and I'm banned from being here in America. So I broke in like every good illegal through Mexico. And the only thing I'm cross about is I've not been given any free Medicaid, hotel, nor food. And why is that?
But you've been here on you're actually doing a tour. Tell us about the tour. Why are you here?
Once I arrive in country, I tend to stay. So I've been 3 months on the road so far, through Colorado, through California, and now here. There's a couple of things I want to say. Number one, you should realize, and maybe you do, maybe you don't, how important your show is for so many people. I've sat in kitchens in California, where it's supposed to be blue, and they listen to you because you give them a sense of hope, and you give them a sense of what you boys are doing here. You give them a sense of faith in what they believe they know to be true. People don't have anywhere else to listen to. I'm not saying that's the reason they listen to you, Steve. The other reason I'm here is that I went through the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, to be an army officer in the British Army. And we were taught there and schooled well that you serve to lead. And now is the time for the generals, for others, to put themselves forward, and myself, to throw ourselves towards the grassroots and to remind people that this still is and it remains the greatest nation on the face of planet Earth, and that there are three things that are going to keep us that way. One is our family, and we're going to fight for our family. Two is our faith. And to all those pastors who have kept their church doors open, they are the heroes as well. They are the generals of the faith. And it is through the church that we will endure this, and also through freedom. I am not allowed to bear a weapon in my country, despite being the target of a jihadi plot to behead me and an assassination attempt backed by the British government, with posters around the country called the assassination of Katie Hopkins. But here you have your Second Amendment, and because of that you have your First. I have a bumper sticker that says guns don't kill people, but I'm willing to. And that's why I'm here fighting for America, reminding you that as dark as things have been, and I was here on the 6th, I was here on the 20th, I was here for the installation of that fetid old man in that house, dribbling away, sniff and blow. But I'm here to remind you, you are the greatest nation. The fight is on, and your hope for 20 million British people as well.
Real quickly, you're reporting about actually what's going on in the lockdowns. It's shocking. Just give us 2 minutes on that, because you have said something that you used to be at the BBC.
Yep.
You were a major columnist at Daily Mail.
Yep.
You were at the biggest platforms in the world. You're not now, but your reporting is actually more on point and shocking. What's going on in England?
In the UK, you are not allowed more than 7 miles from your home address, and you're not allowed to be in a vehicle with any other person. Our police have been redesignated to police the 7-mile radius. Our schools, my children, I have 3 under the age of 16, they have to test every day for the elusive COVID. And because 2 of my children have opted out, this is not a word of a lie, they have to wear a sticker on their blazer to school to indicate that my children are not clean. And the class has been told by this teacher that anybody wearing a sticker does not respect their classmates. British people were told to stand on their doorstep and clap at the sky. At 8 p.m. on a Thursday evening, there's footage available. They stood on their doorstep and clapped at the sky, and that's why you cannot have socialised healthcare here, because it's the brute squad of the left. It means if you didn't clap at the sky, Steve, or Steve at number 12 didn't clap at the sky, I hope that when you're poorly, you don't get treatment.
Real quickly, for all the mothers, give us the thing about the school children again. What was that?
So I'm a mother of 3 children.
Right.
My children have to test every morning before school in order to be allowed into school. 2 of mine opted out. There was a fight about them still being at school. British school children, if they don't test, they have to wear a sticker, a badge, what would you call that here? A sticker on their blazer, a big white sticker, to separate them from their schoolmates in order to mark them as unclean. And the teacher gave a lesson where she explained that kids with stickers are unclean and don't respect their classmates. That's happening now. And Boris today, the potato in a wig, is threatening another full-scale lockdown.
How can this happen in a Tory government? And why is it not being reported anywhere?
It won't be reported. It's being suppressed. And Boris Johnson, at some point, March 2020, was visited. I swear to God, he was offered something to completely crucify the United Kingdom. He turned on a dime. He crucified the nation. 80% of people in the UK are now employed by the British to go straight to universal credit. Within 5 years, you will not be allowed to own a car in the UK within 5 years.
After the Great Brexit victory and the Tory sweep, really led by Nigel Farage yourselves, who had working class people actually vote for it, how did this happen?
Yeah. Someone got to Boris, whatever they offered him, whether it's a seat at the New World Order, whether it's a seat at the Global Forum, he was told if he led the way and crucified the British nation and took it down and removed ownership of anything, he would be rewarded, and it's exactly what he's done.
On the rest of your American tour, are you giving any talks? Is there anything we can talk about? Anything we can tell people about?
Oh, bless you. Well, I end up in Colorado. I've been hauled back there the 28th, Katie Hopkins unzipped, and part of it is being able to laugh, Steve, exactly like this, because our side, not only are we better looking, we also have a personality and a sense of humour, something that Democrats will never have. So do come along to Katie Hopkins unzipped in Colorado for a final big night.
How can people get access to you? We're going to have you back on, obviously, next week. But how can people get access to you?
Social media? Get to Instagram, _everything, _Katie, _Hopkins, _ Amazingly, though I'm banned from South Africa, Wales, Fox, pretty much everywhere, I'm the most banned woman on the planet, you can still find me on YouTube. But thank you for what you do, Steve. Thank you to your team here. And thank you to the War Room for giving people hope across America.
Katie, what I love about you, you're banned for good reason.
I try my best.
You're most controversial.
I have a dangerous mouth.
Once again, Katie Hopkins unzipped.
Yeah, in Colorado.
Is there a site up that people can go to?
Oh, yeah, those tickets are up. There's only a handful remaining because we are going to laugh, and we're going to laugh hard. And I have to tell you, Steve, bluntly, there's a lot of talk that might make you blush.
This is where's it going to be in Colorado? What
Parker? There's a venue there, Deep Space. The owners, because they were nearly crucified through lockdown, they will never serve another Democrat in that establishment. That's why we're holding it there. We're bringing the fight to grassroots.
28th of May, Katie Hopkins unzipped in Colorado.
Yep.
We're going to put it up in the live chat. We'll have Katie back on next week. Mo, I know you want to promote your social media.
You can find me at Maureen_Bannon and Real Maureen Bannon on Instagram, and the first one is Twitter.
Katie Hopkins is how do people, real quickly, get to all your reporting you're doing on the United Kingdom? Every mother's got to read this because it's shocking. The 7 miles, the school children, how do they get to that?
If you just type in Katie Hopkins, my name is Katie, Katie Hopkins, Google me, DuckDuckGo me, ignore some of the pictures, they're quite lewd, and you'll find all my reporting there.
Okay, we'll have Katie on back next week. Okay, the American Generals talk. We'll see. You're going to have explosive reporting.